Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Okay. So, okay, let me share my screen. Okay. So you're able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Good. So any questions from when we left off last time? Yeah. Any questions? No questions, as usual, huh? Okay. So let's see. We have about how many people in the class? 11 people in the class. Okay. So let's not waste time. So
Sir,
yes.
sir, when we're measuring these bonding time and other things, we usually do it for areas where we have the soil surface. Like in case of cities, usually we have
One second,
concrete
Aditya.
roads.
One second, Aditya. One second. Okay. So I want to, you used a certain word, and I want to be very, very careful with the way we are saying this. So you said when we measure this bonding time, we don't measure the bonding time. Okay. We are
Okay.
estimating the bonding time. Okay. It's not a measurement. It's an estimate. Okay. All right. So then you're okay. So now you can continue with your question. I think I think I know where your question is going. So, but yeah, go ahead.
So, sir, in cities, we usually have concrete roads and
Mm-hmm.
the platforms. So,
Yeah.
most of the time, the water gets ponded instead of infiltrating into the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, sir, then is it sensible to estimate ponding time for such areas?
Okay. So now, so you've brought up a question that is, worth debating and discussing. But let me very quickly tell you. No, we'll discuss this. See, the fact of the matter is, we are going to be discussing various aspects of this particular question that you've asked in different ways. Okay. So whenever you're talking about a ponding time, the ponding time is only with respect to infiltration. Only when infiltration happens, you have the concept of ponding time, right? So you can think of, for example, a concrete road, or a concrete building as having a very, very, very low infiltration rate. Okay. In principle, it's almost zero, right? A concrete surface or an asphalt road or a bituminous road, right? These surfaces that are there in urban areas, you can think of those as having um, um, a perfectly impermeable surface, which in other words means that its ability to infiltrate water is limited or close to zero. When that happens, what happens to bonding time? So you just look at this equation that I have. Uh, this is the expression that we derived. TP equal to K. K is, in other words, the hydraulic conductivity of the material, right? Uh, 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 so in this case, if you think of it as concrete, the hydraulic conductivity of concrete will be extremely small. Okay, so small that you may as well call it zero. So then what happens to this term? You'll get TP equal to zero, right? If you
Yes,
just look
sir.
at this expression, that's what you're going to get. Now there, one of the areas of research that's going on around the world is how to make a, an urban area to behave as if it is not an urban area. Okay, so how can we design an urban area in such a way that it behaves as if it is not an urban area? Okay, so I'll not spend a lot of time. I'll not spend a lot of time on this, but let me very briefly say, even on our own campus that we have built, in the last a few years, there is one part of the campus which is attempting to mimic the performance of a non-urban area. Okay, that is the area right next to the sports complex. I'm sure you've all been there. You might have even walked on it, but maybe not realized what is going on there. Have you seen that little parking lot
Yes, sir.
on the to the left of the sports complex as you go approach it from the front? Okay, so that's a pervious concrete pavement. Okay, so when I say pervious, that means it has certain ability to infiltrate water into it. Now, if a concrete surface behaves in a manner like a soil, like a soil has a certain ability to infiltrate water into it. Traditional concrete, which is like completely impermeable, has zero ability or very limited ability to infiltrate water into itself. Now, suppose I'm able to create an urban area in which, instead of having all the surfaces being completely impervious, if I have little pockets here and there of pervious concrete, for example, pervious concrete is just one of these possible solutions that can attempt to be, behave like the natural environment, which will infiltrate water into itself. Then what happens? From a ponding time of 0 for normal concrete, you start to get a ponding time of some finite number, okay, a few minutes or a few hours or whatever it may be for a given rainfall event. And then your urban area is beginning to behave as if it is not an urban area. Or in other words, an urban area is behaving like the natural habitat would. So you're trying to, although you're destroying the natural habitat and coming up with an urban area on top of it, right? Every city that you see today was once upon a time not a city, right? Once upon a time, it used to be just forest or land, agricultural land or whatever it was, right? If you're able to make an urban area which mimics what the natural land surface would have done, then you have succeeded to some extent in doing that. Okay, so anyway, so I'll not get into the details of it, but I guess all of you can appreciate the fact that this kind of it's a very pertinent question, and it yeah, I mean, so it's important to understand that we will be discussing more aspects relating to urbanization and its impact on the hydrological cycle as we go on with okay, so okay, any other questions on ponding time itself? Now, if you look at this expression that we have derived over here for ponding time, Tp equal to K times psi delta theta divided by I into I minus K. There is an implicit assumption in this expression that we have derived.
I can never be 0.
I can never be, of course, I mean, if there's no rainfall, it can be 0. If there's no rainfall happening, there's no infiltration happening. You are on the right track, but think a little bit more. Look at that I minus K term.
Intensity is always greater than the conductivity of the soil.
Yeah, so this whole idea of ponding is only relevant for those intensities of rainfall which are greater than the ability of the soil to or the hydraulic conductivity of the soil sample, right? If I becomes less than K, right, then this you get a negative time. It doesn't make any sense. All right, so there's like different aspects to this. We'll discuss them as we move along. Maybe in this class we'll discuss a few aspects and then we'll move on to other things. Okay, so any questions on this very derivation of TP equal to K psi delta and delta theta and so on? Any questions on how we arrived at this? Is it perfectly clear? Because we did this in the last portion of the class last time. What we have assumed is at time t equal to Tp, these are the assumptions that went into this. At time t equal to Tp, I equal to F, right? The time of ponding, or the ponding time that we have defined, is that time at which the rainfall intensity and the infiltration rate of the soil are exactly equal. Okay, because until that time my infiltration rate was greater than the rainfall intensity. At that point in time, I have actually hit the exact value of my infiltration capacity or the infiltration rate of my soil. Okay, so I equal to F at T equal to TP. And since until that time, whatever rainfall that has fallen has all become infiltration, capital F, the cumulative infiltration is simply I times TP, right? So you put that into my Green-Ampt equation and I get this expression, I equal to K psi delta theta divided by ITP plus 1. And then you rearrange this, you get this expression for the ponding time or time of ponding. Okay. So if there are no questions, let us go ahead and solve one problem, and then that gives you that might give you some very good insights into what this physically means. Okay, compare the ponding time and the depth of water infiltrated at ponding for a silt loam soil of 30% initial effective saturation. Okay, it's a continuation of the same problem. The problem that we solved in the previous class was for a silt loam soil with an initial effective saturation of 30%. So whatever values we got from the problem that we solved in the previous class, we'll continue to use that in today's class also. Okay, so it's the same soil, silt loam soil. The effective saturation SE is the same, 30%. Subjected to rainfall intensities, two different rainfall intensities are given to you. One is 1 centimeter per hour and the other is 5 centimeters per hour. Okay, so okay, so this time TP, what is it? K psi delta theta divided by I into I minus K. This is the expression that we have. Okay, do we have all the information required to solve this problem? In the previous class, we obtained the values of K and psi delta theta and so on. Do you remember that? Right, I'll just quickly go back to the previous. Yeah, so this was the problem that we solved in the last class, where we obtained, you know, for this given information, silt loam soil with an effective saturation of 30%. We obtained all these parameters were obtained from that table that was available in the textbook, right? And then we obtained the cumulative infiltration and the instantaneous infiltration after 1 hour. Okay, but for this particular problem that we are interested in solving, we need these values K, we need psi 16.68 centimeters and delta theta, which was 0.34, I think. 0.34, yeah, and then psi delta theta is 5.68 centimeters. Okay, so let's go into this problem. So in this problem, K is known, right? So K is 0.65 centimeters per hour. Psi delta theta that we obtained in the last class was 5.68 centimeters. Okay, so now we have all the information. Can you quickly just input all these numbers and obtain for me the ponding time for these two rainfall intensities? I of 1 centimeter per hour and I of 5 centimeters per hour. Right? Everything is available in front of you. Can you quickly solve this? Tell me the TP for part A and part B. For I equal to 1 centimeter per hour. Okay, so I'm going to call out somebody to give me the answers. Chakradhar, do you have a calculator and everything available to quickly calculate this? Please unmute yourself. Yeah.
Sorry, sir.
What is that?
Sorry, sir. Sorry. I don't have calculator. I'm sorry, sir.
Okay. You might as well just watch the YouTube videos now. Why do you bother even coming to the class? I mean, there's no need for you to. Anyway, okay. Bowman. Bowman, can you input these numbers into this expression? I'm assuming you have a calculator. You can tell us the time TP. Bowman. Everything is in front of you. K is 0.65 centimeters per hour. Psi delta theta is 5.68 centimeters. I is given. So these are the three pieces of information that you need. Bowman, come on. Please unmute yourself. Bowman. Okay, Purna Chandra. Can you tell us the answer for the first part? Hello. Purna Chandra. You guys are able to hear me, right?
I think they too didn't bring any calculators.
Well, the good thing is your mobile phone has everything that you need, right? Even if you don't have a calculator, you can surely use your mobile phone, or even you can do it by hand. It's not super difficult.
So the first
sir.
one is 18 minutes.
No, I don't think so. Let's
10.5 hours.
yeah.
First.
Okay, so first one is 10.5 hours. Okay,
5.
10.
Mine is 0.15.
Yeah, that's okay. So the second one, if you put in the numbers, you should get 0.17 hours.
Yes.
10.2 minutes.
What is that? 10.2 minutes. Okay, that's fine. So 0.17 hours. So these are the numbers that you're getting. Now this is very interesting, right? Now for these two times, can we find out what the cumulative infiltration would have been for this case, for A and for B? FP is the total cumulative infiltration that has happened up to time TP. So what will FP be? It will simply be I into TP, right? So it's 10.5 centimeters over here. And what is it over here? 5 into 0.17. So which is what? 0.85 centimeters, I think. Please bring your calculators, everybody. Okay, it makes no sense to come to a class without your calculator. Okay, so now look at this. Was this something that you expected? Look at the answers that you've gotten. Just think about the physical significance of this. I have two rainfall events, one of 1 centimeter per hour and the other of 5 centimeter per hour on the same soil sample with everything being identical. The time of ponding doesn't actually tell you a whole lot because you're not able to physically visualize it. But when you compute the cumulative infiltration, look at the numbers that you're getting. In case A, when you received only 1 centimeter per hour, assuming that the rainfall continues for 10 hours, right? So this TP is 10.5 hours, assuming that rainfall intensity continues for 10 hours non-stop, right? So if that happens, in those 10.5 hours, you would have obtained a cumulative infiltration of 10.5 centimeters. Okay, so 10.5 centimeters of water would have infiltrated into the soil if you had case A 1 centimeter per hour. If you have case B, which is 5 centimeters per hour, you have 5 times as much rainfall. Okay, but in 10 minutes, you start to get ponding. And in those 10 minutes, only 0.85 centimeters of water has gone into your soil. So then, what does this mean? It is better to have, yes, yeah, go ahead. What is that? Raza, please mute yourself. Okay, yeah. So what this is telling us is that to get more infiltration, it is better to have a low intensity rainfall event for a long duration than to have a high intensity rainfall event for a small duration. This is what it's telling you, right? This may be counterintuitive, right? It is not, your intuition says more rainfall, more infiltration. Not necessarily, or rather more higher rainfall intensity, higher rainfall, higher infiltration. Not necessarily. In fact, this is what this is telling us is exactly the opposite of what you would expect, right? So if you have a lower rainfall event, a lower intensity rainfall event for a sustained duration, for a longer duration, in terms of getting recharge to happen to your groundwater, it is better if you have consistent rainfall for a long duration than have a very high rainfall event for a small duration. Okay, can you is there are you able to understand this from a physical point of view? Physically, does this make sense to you intuitively?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
sir.
Okay, so there's this one example that I always give for this particular. I solve this problem in every year I teach this. I solve this same problem. Okay, and then the example that I give is this. Okay, so suppose when you go to the to the movie theater to watch a movie or something like that, right? You buy this Coke or Pepsi or whatever it is, right? It just gushes out of the tap, and you take your that plastic tumbler and put it under that tap, and it looks like it is filled up to the top. But when you remove it from the from under the tap, you see that it's actually only filled half the tumbler, or half that glass. But whereas if the water comes out, or of the liquid is coming out at a slow rate, you have to keep it longer, but it fills up your glass. Have you encountered this? This is a good way of thinking about it like that. If you want to fill up a glass of water, it's much better if you fill it up under a glass that where the water is coming out, under a tap where the water is coming out slowly, than a tap under which the water is gushing out very fast. You keep it under that tap, and you take your tumbler out. It looks as if the water is coming very fast, but it doesn't fill your glass. But if it's coming slowly, you just keep it there. You wait for a little bit more. It fills up your glass much better, right? Something intuitively, that's something probably that you've encountered in your day-to-day life, which probably you can relate to this. Is that all right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So yeah, so this is just one way for you to to understand that typically whenever you this is something that I hear all the time. When you talk to the layman, the lay person will just say something like oh, we received so much rainfall this year, but looks like there was no benefit. Everything, the groundwater table is still low. Why is that? That's probably because of this, that if you receive a lot of rainfall in a short duration of time, your groundwater table may not improve. But whereas if you receive a little bit of rainfall distributed over or a lower intensity rainfall distributed over a longer period of time, your groundwater table may see more of an improvement. Okay, so this is something that is usually a little bit counterintuitive. Okay, any questions on this? All right.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Yeah. So now let us say I'm interested in estimating what is happening to infiltration after ponding has taken place. Okay. Remember that just because ponding has happened doesn't mean infiltration stops and then only runoff happens. The soil still has some ability to infiltrate water. So infiltration continues even after ponding happens. You understand what I'm saying? Whenever there is when ponding takes place, it means that you have hit the point where the infiltration capacity of the soil, or the instantaneous infiltration of the soil, is no longer able to keep up with the rainfall intensity, right? So the rainfall intensity has actually now exceeded the infiltration rate of the soil. Okay, but infiltration continues. Although runoff starts to happen after ponding, infiltration continues, right? So what happens to infiltration after ponding has taken place? This is also something that's very interesting. Okay, so I'm going to draw a couple of graphs, and then hopefully you can understand what I'm trying to communicate. Okay, let me use a different color, blue maybe. Okay, so I'm going to draw one graph
So-
below the other. Yes.
So would that imply that in the first case, the saturation zone will be quite lower, the depth of saturation zone will be more, and in the second case it will be less?
Okay. So you're talking about this 1 centimeter per hour and 5 centimeter per hour, right?
Yes.
So you're saying the depth of, say that again, in the first case where the rainfall intensity is lower,
the depth of saturation zone will be more.
more, okay.
And in the second case, it will be less.
In the second, what is that?
In the second case, the depth of saturation zone will be less.
In the second case, the depth of saturation zone will be less. Well, see, the thing is this. Now, one of the things that you need to appreciate in that particular problem is that 5 centimeters per hour has only happened for 10 minutes. It has only happened for about 10 minutes. And in 10 minutes, you've got 0.85 centimeters of infiltration happening into the soil. Okay. Now, as the rainfall continues, if the rainfall continues at the same rate for 10 hours, like in this first problem, infiltration will continue to happen, but the rate at which it happens will keep declining. Okay. I understand. I understand.
Consider separate bonding times.
Sir, it is okay to understand, but why it is happening?
No, why? What is happening? Okay, let me first answer Raza's question. So your question is the thickness of that saturation zone. You're saying is more in the case of the first in 1 centimeter per hour rainfall than in the 5 centimeter per hour rainfall. Correct?
Right.
Yeah. So now you must remember that the durations over which this is happening is also different in both the cases. After 10 hours, the saturation zone in the first case will naturally be thicker. But in this case, in the second case, the time of ponding has only has happened within like a few minutes of the rainfall starting. Okay. So naturally the saturation zone will be thinner. Okay. But if to compare it, to make a fair comparison about the thickness of the saturation zone, it's probably not possible, because the durations are different. Okay. Right. But qualitatively, I can say that after 10 minutes, if you look at both of these cases, after 10 minutes, if you look at the saturation zone thickness for case A and case B, what do you think? Case B will be more. Case B will be more than case A, right? So okay, maybe I'll draw one curve that probably tries to address this question. Okay, so if you look at the moisture profile, it may look something like this. Okay, so let us say this is saturation. Okay, oops, sorry. On the on the x-axis, I have theta, moisture content, and over here is saturation. Okay, for T less than Tp, this is what the curve will look like. On the y-axis, I have depth Z. Okay, for T equal to Tp, I may get something that looks like this. Okay, I'm just drawing an approximate profile. It doesn't necessarily mean that the shape will look like this. Okay, so this is for T equal to Tp. If now rainfall continues past this, okay, then it will look like something like this. This is for T greater than Tp. Okay, so naturally the saturation zone is extending deeper into the soil sample as time goes on.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Somebody else asked another question. Was it Nischal?
I got it, sir. I got it.
Okay, you got it. All right. Good. Okay. So now we are trying to understand what happens to infiltration after ponding happens. Okay. So in the first graph, I'm going to draw on the x-axis, I have time. Both ones will be time. On the y-axis here, I have the instantaneous infiltration rate, and here I have the cumulative infiltration. Okay, so this one is let's say centimeters per hour, and this one is in centimeters. Okay, let me draw what the rainfall intensity is. Okay, so the rainfall intensity okay, let's say the rainfall intensity is constant, and continuing indefinitely. Okay, until time t equal to tp. Let us say this time corresponds to time t equal to tp. I'm going to draw this. Oh, I'm sorry. So I'll draw this the same time t equal to tp. This is rainfall. So this is I. Okay. Now the question is, what happens after time t equal to tp has been reached? So this is time tp. So if I were to draw cumulative infiltration as a function of time, what will it look like? From 0 to tp?
Straight line passing through 0
Straight line passing through 0.
and slope
Yeah.
equal to I.
Slope equal to I. Yeah, fair enough. So this number equal to I times tp. Is that correct? So it has reached a value of I times tp at the end of time t equal to tp. Right? This is how we have understood the process up to tp. Now the question is, what happens after tp? Okay, so let me try to draw that. So let us say we will try to understand it from both perspectives, both from small f and capital F. Okay, so we already know, we have some idea of the way small f changes as a function of time, right? We know that small f starts off at a very high number and then slowly declines. You know, if you remember when we did that Phillips equation, it looked something like this, right? This was, what was this? Was this FC? And this is F naught, right? Something like that. Sometimes I get confused. I put F naught here and FC there. It doesn't matter. FC is the initial infiltration rate, and F naught is the final infiltration rate that is achieved asymptotically at large time. Okay. If the textbook says this is F naught, that is FC, it doesn't matter. I don't bother remembering it. There's no point in remembering it. Okay. So this is what the infiltration rate as a function of time. This is how it looks like as a function of time. Okay. So then after this time t equal to tp, this is the point at which I and F intersect, right? I is, let's say I is some constant over here. Okay, if I bring the same curve back to here, after time t equal to tp, the curve should look something like this. Sorry. Yeah. So the curve should look something like this. Agreed? So this should be the actual infiltration rate. My question is, I want to find out what this curve looks like. As okay, I've drawn it a little bit incorrectly. It should asymptotically, approach towards some constant value. Okay, so the curve doesn't look quite right, but just assume that it is asymptotically approaching some constant value as time goes on. Okay, now can I not extend this backwards in time? Okay, let us first look at what cumulative infiltration will look like. Okay, remember that so far we are assuming that rainfall will just continue at the same rate indefinitely. So this actual rainfall will just keep happening. This same intensity of rainfall keeps happening indefinitely for all time. So the actual rainfall, this dotted line is showing the actual intensity of rainfall, or the intensity of rainfall, and this dotted line is showing the cumulative rainfall. Up to time t equal to tp, all the water that fell as rainfall has become infiltration, right? So the solid line up to t equal to tp is the same whether it is in rainfall or infiltration, correct? Only after tp, rainfall continues to happen, but cumulative infiltration starts to decline, right? So how will this curve look like? Will it go above this line or below this line? Below the line, right? Everybody agrees with that, right? So it will look something like this. So this is actual cumulative infiltration. Okay. So now, can I not, after having qualitatively drawn what this curve will look like, can I not extend this curve backwards, which would tell us how the curve should have looked like before ponding time? Okay, there's a reason why I'm doing this. You will appreciate this as I draw it backwards. Okay, so this curve, solid curve that you see over here, is the the actual infiltration rate. Okay, after TP. But if I extend this curve with the same shape backwards, okay, it's a little difficult to draw. Let me try. Okay, assuming that I've drawn it nicely, think of it as a smooth curve, right? Just going. So this is the potential infiltration. Potential infiltration rate. So that dotted line that I've drawn backwards is representing the potential infiltration rate. If you are not following, please stop me at any point. Okay, so that dotted line that I've drawn over there is the potential infiltration rate. Can I not do the same thing for this cumulative infiltration? Can I not also extend that curve backwards? Can I do that? It's just a academic exercise. It may not necessarily mean anything, or we'll have to extract some physical meaning from it. Okay, so if I draw this curve backwards, this curve that I've drawn over here, if I draw it backwards with the same kind of curvature, then it will become something like this. Okay, you just assume that I'm drawing it nicely. Okay, so this solid line, I'm just drawing it backwards. It comes and intersects this curve. Let us intersects the x-axis. Let us say that time is t naught. Oops, it's t naught. Oops, I'm so sorry. T naught. If I try to make a small circle, then it gives me trouble. So t naught is the time which is telling us at what point this curve will intersect the x-axis or the time axis. Okay, so you can think of it physically as some kind of time. This t naught is the time from which, if infiltration had started at that time, right, it would have still reached the same time of ponding, and the same amount of infiltration would have happened by time t equal to TP. Okay, now physically, what does this mean?
Sir, didn't get it, sir.
Yeah, I'll try to explain it physically. So this t naught is basically the time from which, if infiltration had started at that time t naught, what is the original time at which infiltration started? 0. From 0 to TP, you have got a cumulative infiltration of FP. Okay, FP equal to I times TP. Okay, but if infiltration had happened at this rate, at this dotted line, okay, then you would have got cumulative infiltration happening along this dotted line, right? If infiltration had happened at the potential of that soil, okay, naturally you would have achieved the same amount FP in a shorter time duration, correct?
Yes.
Right? So what took from 0 to TP to accomplish could have been accomplished from T naught to TP if the infiltration had happened at the potential infiltration rate. It's a slightly so you can I mean I don't know, physically there's no other way to explain it. Okay, so this T naught is the time. You can think of it as shifting the origin. Instead of starting at time t equal to 0, I've shifted my time to another time t naught, from which, if infiltration had started at the potential infiltration rate, I would have still accomplished whatever infiltration I have accomplished by time t equal to TP. The same cumulative infiltration and the same infiltration rate would have reached if my infiltration had happened at the potential infiltration rate at every given point in time. Okay, so that's a way to think of it physically. In which case, if I were to write the equation again, so let me, okay, where did I, okay. Let me write the equation again. So this FP, if I write FP for this new curve, this dotted line curve, it will look something like this. FP, so I don't want to make any mistakes. So let me just FP minus psi delta theta log 1 plus FP divided by psi delta theta equal to, what should it be equal to?
K into TP minus T naught.
K into TP minus T naught. K into TP minus T naught. Right? You agree with this? This expression, let me maybe erase something over here. So it's, okay. So FP minus psi delta theta log 1 plus FP by psi delta theta equal to K into TP minus T naught. This is the cumulative infiltration that has happened up to time TP, assuming that it had happened at a rate at the potential infiltration rate. Okay, TP minus T naught. Now, if for any time greater than TP, oops, I'm sorry. Pen. Okay, so this is for T equal to TP. For T greater than TP, what will the equation look like? So the equation will simply be F minus psi delta theta. For any time T greater than TP, this is what the equation will look like. 1 plus F by psi delta theta equal to K times, for any time T greater than TP,
T minus T naught.
T minus T naught. Right? Assuming that, you know, it has started from T naught instead of at time T equal to 0. That's all. All I'm doing is I'm shifting the origin from T equal to 0 to time T equal to T naught. That's all I'm doing. And I'm just rewriting the expression, still keeping, you know, the absolute time T, which starts from 0. And then I'm introducing this new origin T naught. That's all I'm doing. Okay, nothing fancy is happening. Now, if you subtract these two equations, you will get rid of this T naught, and you will get an expression. I'll write the final expression. I don't want to go through all the steps. I'll just write the final expression. So the final expression will be subtracting. You will get F minus FP minus psi delta theta natural log of F plus psi delta theta divided by FP plus psi delta theta equal to K times T minus TP. Okay, so F minus FP minus psi delta theta natural log F plus psi delta theta divided by FP plus psi delta theta equal to K into T minus TP. The reason I have done this is because in these two equations, I'm introducing this new variable T naught, which I don't know. Okay, but it is there in order to you know, physically make sense of this expression of this of this procedure that we are adopting to estimate the infiltration after ponding has taken place. So I'm, you know, doing this kind of some kind of a mathematical trick. Okay, then I subtract the two equations, and if you rearrange the terms, you should be very easily able to get this final expression. Now in this term, what are the unknowns? Is FP known? The cumulative infiltration at T equal to TP is known.
Yes, sir.
Right? Psi is known, delta theta is known, TP is known, K is known, everything is known. The only unknown is F, because you are interested in finding out what is the infiltration rate at some time T greater than TP. I am interested in knowing what is the infiltration rate sorry, what is the cumulative infiltration? Okay, of course, once you know cumulative infiltration, you can also find infiltration rate. Okay, so this equation, one unknown, but it's a little bit complicated. It's not a simple algebraic equation that you can solve. There's a logarithmic term and so on. So what do? Same as you did before. Successive substitution, right? So you make an initial guess, put in that number, and then of course you'll have to rearrange it a little bit such that you get an LHS equal to RHS kind of thing. So you make an assumption, put that into RHS, compute the new LHS, see if they are matching. If they are not, take the previous value, the same iterative approach. You have this one equation, one unknown. You keep putting in the value of the newly obtained value of f and keep solving it until you get f value to converge. And once you get f, you can find out small f, right? Small f you already know how to do. We've already shown it in the previous class. What was that expression for small f? Small f equal to k into psi delta theta by capital F plus 1. So you put in that capital F, you know k, you know psi, you know delta theta. You can solve for small f. Okay. Any questions? Any questions? Okay. So let us solve one more problem. Okay. Calculate the cumulative infiltration and the infiltration rate, not rate, after 1 hour of rainfall of intensity 5 centimeters per hour on a silt loam soil. Is a continuation of the same problem, right? Same 5 centimeter per hour intensity, silt loam soil, 30% effective saturation. Everything is given to you. So we'll use the numbers from the previous problem. Okay. The previous problem we just obtained all these numbers. So K is known. What is that? K is 0.65 centimeters per hour. TP, what was TP for this 5 centimeter per hour? We just solved it.
0.17 hour.
0.17 hours, right? 10 minutes. What else do we need? We need psi delta theta. Psi delta theta equal to, I think 5.68 centimeters. So now we have everything required to attempt to solve this problem. And the question is, calculate the cumulative infiltration and infiltration rate after 1 hour of rainfall. Okay. So the question is, what is F at t equal to 1 hour, and what is small f at t equal to 1 hour? Okay. So we put that into that expression, F minus Fp minus psi delta theta natural log of F plus psi delta theta divided by Fp plus psi delta theta equal to K times T, which is 1 hour, minus Tp, which is 0.17 hours. Okay. So now again, you do the same, successive substitution. I'm sorry. Oops. Oh God. Yeah, you're able to see the screen? It's gone, right? I'm sorry. You're able to see the screen now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. So let us quickly, so you do the substitution and then you get capital F equal to, I'll not go into the iterative approach. You can very easily solve it. Now in this equation, the only unknown is F, capital F, right? Capital T is given 1 hour. TP we solved in the previous problem, 0.17. Psi delta theta is known. K is known. K is required on the right hand side. Yeah. So you simply solve for F iteratively. You obtain this value, capital F equal to 3.02 centimeters. This is taking into account the fact that ponding happens after 10 minutes, after 0.17 hours, right? Then you solve for your small f. Small f is simply K times psi delta theta by F plus 1. So you know K, you know psi delta theta, you've just obtained capital F. So you put all the numbers in, you will get your, what is that? You'll get your infiltration rate, instantaneous infiltration rate, 1.87 centimeters per hour. Okay. Now, if you remember, when we solved the previous problem, without taking time of ponding into account. Do you remember? Shall I just go back to the this was the problem that we solved, right? Yeah. Oh, did I not give the rainfall rate? Oh, water is ponded. Yeah. So in this particular case, we did not take into account rainfall intensity, right? We assume that the water is ponded to a small but negligible depth on the surface, right? For the same soil, after 1 hour, how much infiltration had happened? Look at the answer. This is I think previous class or the class before that, I don't remember. Okay. Yeah, the class before that we solved this problem where we said that after 1 hour of infiltration, assuming that some water had ponded at the surface, right, we found that the total infiltration, cumulative infiltration that happened was 3.17 centimeters after 1 hour into the same soil with the same effective saturation. Okay. All right. Now we've solved the same problem taking into account the fact that there is no water ponded at the surface. We are just taking the rainfall intensity into account and computing the time of ponding and then computing what the cumulative infiltration would have been after 1 hour. What is the difference between this problem and that problem? Only one difference. Here we are assuming that even from time t equal to 0, there was ponding at the surface, right? So for the entire 1 hour, there was ponding at the surface, and then you got a cumulative infiltration of 3.17 centimeters. Okay. But when I take into account time of ponding and then solve the same problem with the with the rainfall intensity, I find out that I actually get less infiltration happening into the soil sample. Okay. So what does this what does this tell you? In the previous problem, from time t equal to 0, there was ponding at the surface. Here, ponding only starts after 0.17 hours, right? So therefore, in that problem, effectively you had ponding is what is ponding essentially? Ponding is basically an infinite source of water, right? In the first 0.17 hours, all the infiltration was happening because of rainfall, right? But in the previous problem that we solved, there was an infinite source of water at the surface. So naturally, you had more infiltration happening in that previous problem. But here, okay. In fact, I would again rephrase that. In the previous problem, the soil had the ability to infiltrate water at its potential infiltration rate. Here, it was limited by the rainfall intensity. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yes.
Right. So here, there's a rainfall intensity of 5 centimeters per hour. What if the soil had an ability to infiltrate water at 6 centimeters per hour? In this problem, you are not given that option, right? Because the rainfall intensity is prescribed. So once your rainfall intensity is prescribed, you can only, the maximum possible infiltration rate is only the rainfall intensity. Even if the soil has a greater capacity, it's not, I mean, the way the problem is formulated, you're not allowed to go beyond the rainfall intensity, right? So therefore, in these two, so that is the reason why we are solving these problems sequentially, to understand how every additional piece of information that you give into the model, when I say model, I'm saying the green AMP model, the answer that you get is a little bit more nuanced, a little bit more detail is added into the problem, and that makes the whole problem more interesting. Okay. All right. So we will meet on Thursday. we'll continue with with the infiltration aspects. We'll go into further aspects of infiltration. We'll start looking at runoff and so on. Okay, on Thursday. All right. Thank you very much. If you have questions, send me emails. You can send me contact me by WhatsApp and so on. All right. Thank you very much. See you on Thursday. Bye.